Good morning, Frederick County and Virginia. This is Dana B with my friend Charlie Markert and the singing CO, our buddy Scotty S. from the Mountain Patriots Educational Ministries. Welcome to a wonderful Friday the 19th. It's a beautiful sunny day. Today we have some really cool guests that have become very, very good friends of mine and of ours of the Mountain Patriots. We have today Chris and Debbie Cloud, who we've gotten a chance to hang out with and talk with and do bonfires with and go through all kinds of truths and conspiracies and all kinds of stuff. We've had a lot of fun with this. So I want to say welcome to Chris and Debbie. And as usual, I turn everything over to my friend Charlie Markert, who is our question and answer guy. And Scott and I are here kind of just throw our opinion in here, whether you like it or not. So,
I thought
Charlie,
we were
I'm going
here
to
to
turn
look
it over
good.
to you and let you take it away, my friend.
Okay. Thank you, Dana. Welcome, Chris and Debbie. Good seeing you again.
Yeah.
Good seeing you.
And
And to you as well.
thank you. Thank you. Um, just as a general point of view, we all have a tendency to hope for the best. It's our human nature to think the best is going to happen, but it doesn't always do that, especially in the face of evil. And that's there today, and it's often very difficult to deal with. There's good and evil everywhere. So our job is to figure out which is which and then do something to make a difference. But before we get into that heavy type discussion, would you tell us a little bit about yourselves? Would you tell us how you got to where you are in this journey of yours, where you came from? How'd you end up in this world of politics?
The Matrix.
The Matrix, right? And how'd you get to where you are now? So kind of a thumbnail sketch of you guys, please.
Well, I'm Chris Cloud, and I was born and raised in Virginia, raised about 300 yards away from where I am right now. In 1994, I always loved being in Virginia, but in 1994, I metaphorically ran away and joined the circus. I started working on yachts, and that took me around the world quite a bit. And I segued from running yachts to running private islands in the Bahamas, predominantly, mostly in the Bahamas. I lived overseas for many years, very remote locations, off grid completely, where I was my own utility. So a lot of self reliance in that. Debbie and I met, and she joined me on the tail end. What really was the tail end of that adventure for a couple of islands, one island in the Bahamas, another island in the British Virgin Islands, and that led me up to 2017 when my father passed away, and his last wish was that mom die in the house that we lived in, and that was, as I mentioned, just 300 yards down the road from where we are right now. In this picture right here, actually in the background,
Is
on the
the view.
So Debbie and I having been gone and living overseas for so many years, was pretty much done with that lifestyle, and so it was time. I always intended to return to Virginia. That may have been accelerated by a year, but not much more than that when my dad passed. And so Debbie and I returned to Virginia, lived with my mom, took care of her until she needed full-time care, and we bought this house that we're in now. How did we get to where we are politically? In 2020, we were sitting on the couch and watching TV, and they had just come out with this pronouncement that they were going to the government was going to sanction 4th of July gatherings for up to 8 of your closest friends.
8 of your friends.
And Debbie and I were sitting next to each other like we are now on the couch, and she shook her head and she said, I can't believe what they're doing. And she says, I'm so sick and tired of this and of 2020 writ large.
Unbelievable.
And so the conversation bounced back and forth where we said, why don't we just give up on 2020? We'll start over. Why don't we have a party and have New Year's Eve 2.0? Last day of June, first day of July is 6 months into the year. why don't we see if anybody wants to have a cookout and get together and celebrate and just restart 2020. And so we threw out a public notice on social media. The last day of June was on a Tuesday night. Now, mind you, 4th of July was the following Saturday. So right. Anybody with any sense would have said, well, let's just hold this party on Saturday. No, New Year's Eve is New Year's Eve. So we had New Year's Eve 2.0, and we ended up with 150 people and food for miles and a big bonfire in the backyard. And that went so well. There were kids playing. There was, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody said, hey, when's the next one? We hadn't thought about a next one. We hadn't thought about one, but right. One led to another, and we decided to dedicate the last Saturday of every month to the Patriot Potluck Bonfire. And without miss, without fail, for 56 months, we held what really amounts to a wedding in your backyard. Mm-hmm. We were between 80 and 320 people in our backyard, depending on who the guest speaker was. We've had Tom Homan, we've had Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer, we've had Sebastian Gorka, etc., and all of the candidates that ran for offices during that period of time. So for 5 years, we held this event, and it became pretty well known. We got a little long in the tooth, and we just got tired back in December, and that was really kind of we looked at each other and said, okay, we've done what we needed to do.
Right.
With this, Trump is back in office, and now it's up to other people to take this and run with it and see if they want to do it on their own. So that's how we kind of got involved. And during the Trump administration and the Trump candidacy, we both also organized several very successful, very large car parades that were pretty well known. And that's, that was our activism in politics. I call into the local radio station probably 4 or 5 times a week on WMAL. And I try out all of my material on Debbie first. So she gets 4, 5, 12, 15, 20 times while I'm refining my shtick, if you will. So
Debbie, how did you come to this enterprise that Chris has built?
Well, I don't know if Chris built it, but back a little bit. So I was born in Texas, raised in California. My mom was a psychoanalyst that worked with PTSD and was very involved in the PSYOPs program during my childhood and early years. There's a long, big story about that, but I had told her since I was a very small child that this was all related. And she would say, no, this is a mission. And then these are bad people and it's all separate. And ever since I was little, I always saw that it was really connected. Yep. When I was about 16 or 17, we flew to DC to confront the problems we saw in LA happening in the 1970s and 80s, if you have any idea of what was going on there between the government, PSYOPs, and everything else. And the gentleman we met with was the president of APA at the time. And he said to us that until this thing is so big, and it's at every university, every think tank, and everything, nothing is going to change until every single American marches on their town centers and says, no, we will not take this anymore, and it will end now, because they had too much power. Well, 16 years old, I'm embraced with this information going, well, that's not good, because my childhood was riddled with a lot of things that we won't get into now. But I decided I wanted to be a doctor and help people. But every time I went to my university and tried to go down a rabbit hole, it seemed like it was twisted and wrong, and it wasn't going to do what I wanted to do, which was help people.
You don't fit.
So I kept trying. Okay, so let's do it by medicine, by psychology, by education, by health. What are the answers? And everything really got stuck. So I opted not to go to medical school. I had friends. My mom's a doctor. We had friends being doctors, and they said, the industry completely changed. I saw food change. I saw schools change. So I opted to just consult with people to find their passion and help them fix their lives, start businesses, or get involved. So that's been my focus all of my life. I'm good at accounting, I'm good at business, I'm good at personal development, I'm good with children and families. So it was a very big
And managing me.
And managing Chris.
big
No
mix.
small
Sound
job.
familiar, Barbara?
So I was married, I had children, I bumped up into the family court system, and his family was a very powerful family. My family is intelligence on all sides and very deeply involved in the government.
Right.
And we hit heads, and I thought it was just two powerful families coming together. And bottom line, my ex was using my children to control me. I started a business, Dane, I don't know if you even know this, called Thrive Right Now. It was how to be prepared for any situation and hear all the aspects to digest our current culture. 2 years later, my ex targeted one child. We ended up in court. I lost all 4 children. Chris happened to be a friend of mine at the time, and he said, just come overseas, no strings attached. You need to get out of Dodge for your own sanity and well-being. And I went and did that with him for a while. Later, we got married. When his father passed away, we moved home. And he asked me for on my birthday, what do you want to do? And I go, well, a really good friend of mine is running for lieutenant governor here in Virginia, and I want to go see her speak. And he goes, what? Politics? What are you talking about? So that was 2017. So that's when we started to engage what was going on. We saw Trump overseas get into office. We were very active, engaged with the expats at the time.
Right.
And when we came home, I wanted to stay engaged because I feel that it's our dedication. And Chris was very dedicated to community and helping people as well. So we joined the GOP, and that did not go.
What a connection.
Well. Then
this sounds so close to us, Debbie. I mean, we've been through. You talk about the court system, and you're talking about different psyops, and you're talking. I'll just bring up the word MK Ultra stuff that we thought that people thought we were crazy years ago. Going, but they're doing all of this stuff, and especially when you said the court system, Barbara and I we've been buck up again, and we're going. This is just common sense. I mean, but it's not. It is a complete control, and you know this as well as I do. It's a complete control to not only destroy us, but to do it by destroying the nuclear family. Okay?
100%. 100%. And I want to get into that at a later point, but agreed. I thought it was just two powerful families. And since that time, and all through my relationship with Chris, I've consulted with thousands of parents, whistleblowers, judges, lawyers, doctors, and it comes down to the same conclusion. My mom was an expert in trauma. I ran all of her programs. They're not dealing with trauma. Their goal is the destruction and remaking, as we were saying earlier, Charlie, the right and the left of the American family, destroying the family and bringing it out. So when Virginia challenged the 2A movement, and we had that wave of what they call sanctuary cities, I stood up to Chris, and our county agreed that a sanctuary city was at that point defined by the left to hide criminals and give them free reign. And we didn't like that. So we really engaged locally that it needed to be a constitutional county.
Not a sanctuary, but a constitutional.
Constitutional. Boy, this sounds familiar, doesn't it, Charlie?
Right.
So we stood up at our board of supervisors. When we came home, we were going local community, everything, all the time. So we stood up and really encouraged that. And our board of supervisors unanimously, even the Democrat on the board, passed a constitutional county during the 2A movement. So at that point, we ended up meeting in pubs with our local friends that were concerned about what was going on in Virginia and, of course, on the national level. And from there, COVID hit, and then we started the bonfire.
Right.
We had already engaged into this arena of what's going on local, what's going on in our state, and what's going in nationally. And with me in the back of my mind, knowing that until everybody started marching, well, I'm looking at everybody marching, but things aren't changing. But with my past and everything, I understood the toxicity of the deep state, as we refer to now, which is much more a toxic state. And that is what we're fighting, is 100 years of this inlaid, embedded, layered stuff that we're having a hard time navigating right now.
So what I'd like to do is just set the stage for our conversation for the rest of this program. It sounds to me like we probably have the means of a dozen programs. And we're happy to do that. But in order to not talk about everything, we want to, as you suggested, focus on three things today. First, how does a Charlie Kirk assassination impact us and
there's a wake up
and where we are and where we're going? What's next? Secondly, that toxic state that you just mentioned. We call it the deep state. Everybody does, when it is truly the toxic state. I like that terminology much better. So maybe it's the toxic deep state. And thirdly, how do we stay positive in the face of all this evil? So what do we do? So how can we help? That sort of thing. So those three items, let's start with Charlie Kirk. What has the impact of, or what is going to be the impact of his assassination on our culture, on the people, on what we have ahead of us and moving forward? He was a tireless defender of his faith, and we recognize that and are thankful for it. And hopefully there are more Charlie Kirks coming or here.
That's a toughie, isn't it? Another Charlie Kirk is a real toughie for somebody who could put all of that stuff together, at the same time. And it is very toxic with what actually happened, So Debbie, what's your thought, Debbie? Chris, what are your thoughts on? Because I have a lot of thoughts on this myself, and I think part of this is a big psyop to wake us up at the same time. Stuff doesn't fit.
Well, the brilliance of Charlie Kirk was his ability to go into a group. I remember one of the first videos that Chris shared with me was him sitting in the middle of a room surrounded by college students that were all pretty much 100% liberal. And he said, just ask me the questions and let's see where this goes. But his willingness to talk to anybody and his brilliance, Chris, time and time again, showed me videos of him being able to answer questions so well in such a deep level that makes sense. And one of the last ones we saw after he was assassinated, of a girl standing up challenging his position on abortion, knowing that he was going to get Bible thump. And he turned around and looked at her and said, yes, personally, those are my beliefs, but I can stand on fact and truth. And I think that's the one thing about the left. What I call it is really a broken brain syndrome, that over the last 50 to 75 years, everything has been embedded to break our brains so that we do these siloed thinking events that don't cross-relate. And the left has become an expert at triggering us to not be able to argue the truth. And they don't look for the truth. They know their party lines and where they are. And Charlie Kirk had the ability to cross all of it and in a kind, soft, rational way, be able to speak to each topic in a way that somebody else can hear. And that is a gift and a talent that comes from God.
And to speak to each person individually.
Yes, individually. On their level.
So they've been angry, and I wrote about this the other day. They've been so angry at Trump and attacking Trump, but I call Trump a bulldozer. He can deal with this and he will push you out of the way and do things. But Charlie had a way to inspire the youth, to inspire people that were able to think and actually flip people that had been so close-minded or broken that people saw him as somebody who could be a president, who was an orator, that is a statesman. So all the things they say they don't like about Trump, he had that capacity. So I believe that scared them more than Trump.
Yeah, Scott,
what would happen in 4
thoughts
years?
on this?
2 years from now,
like to share?
He'd be 35. I think a lot of this has to do with timing too. Chris, what do you think?
I just asked Scott what he thought.
Oh yeah, but because
Scott, go ahead.
Scott's running with the school anyway, which is a great piece with this, you know.
Well, right before we started this podcast, I don't know if you were aware, the House of Representatives voted on the resolution to honor Charlie Kirk's life. It was a 310 to 58 vote. 58 Democrats voted no, 22 didn't vote at all, and 38 voted present. It just even to just say, hey, we're sorry, they can't even bring themselves to do that. I don't know if you saw the debate between Rashida Tlaib and Byron. It was Byron Donald. They're just completely unhinged, screeching like a banshee, and I just don't understand it. He didn't do anything. Everything that he did was above board. He was engaging. Even when he had the guy that dressed up as Satan. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
Yes.
He wasn't.
Yes.
He treated it as he should have, but he was never rude. He was never ugly. He was never mean. He listened. He gave you the opportunity to speak, even when people were being butt faces to him. I mean, he still treated them like they were a human being. And we can't even get people in Congress to just say, yeah, we're going to honor him. He was a good guy. It's just craziness. I don't understand it.
So that's where I follow the broken brains that fall into this insanity.
Broken brain syndrome.
And you can't rationalize your way out of it. They don't believe in truth, and they run with the narrative they have, and they won't change their mind.
Because they have a hidden agenda.
Yeah. So I beseech people to think about this on a larger scale, even than Charlie Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Kirk was an event, if you will, something that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But why and what led to that? And I've said to people before, you know, the Republican Party and the conservatives need to regain, and I'm going to be very careful with my words, and I will expound on them. We need to regain a modicum of belligerence. And what I mean by that is,
I like that.
We've been too tolerant for too long, and a modicum of belligerence means no.
Right.
Sit down, shut up. We're not tolerating. That's a line we're not going to cross. And I ask people, why do you think Antifa exists and BLM exists and these riots occurred, and you know everything from George Floyd on down? Why do they behave that way? And they behave that way. They being the Marxists among us. They behave that way because it's effective.
And we allow it.
And we don't stop. Now, Debbie, I'm not going to say it started at. I'm not going to say it started at, because Debbie always likes to go back and say, oh, it didn't start there. It started years. It made great leaps and advances forward. Their techniques and their actions during Occupy Wall Street. Now
they ramped it up.
Before that, there were instances before that, but if you remember, do you remember the things called flash mobs, where in a shopping mall, people it was usually musical flash mobs? There was the Pokemon phone app where you'd follow your phone around and you'd look for the Pokemon that showed up on your screen, and you'd be able to capture it. Those were and geocaching, where you'd follow your phone to little Easter egg treats and things that you'd find these, and you'd kind of like leaving ducks on Jeeps.
Mm-hmm.
Those were three methods that the left utilized at that time to train and condition to be able to use this
to find everything you do
and to communicate and to organize. When Marjorie Taylor Greene was on the steps of Congress objecting to boys and girls bathrooms, this was several years ago, before she got done with her speech, they had to usher her to safety with Secret Service, because the left had organized a flash mob to come and object to her on the steps right then, right there. we minimize Antifa and the like to our great, great detriment. They are organized, they are trained, they are financed, they are uniformed. You tell me what facet of them isn't a militia. We like to talk about them having man buns and tight, skinny jeans and having feckless little spaghetti arms.
And a mask.
Who among us is that organized? So
Nobody.
why do they do the things they do? Because they're effective. And Charlie Kirk's assassination was the next step in their methodology, because what they have been doing isn't providing the effect that they want. So we need to think about Charlie Kirk as what's going to lead up to what's next. Because here's the thing. I've been saying for a long time, you don't get to choose when you're in a civil war. The Civil War comes to you, and there's nothing greater than peace. There's nothing greater than security and peace. But
there comes a time
that historians in 75 or 100 years, they're going to look back and they're going to peg the commencement of the Second Civil War as COVID in 2020. And that we've been in it, and you don't see it for the fog of being in it, but the other side has already gone kinetic.
We are in a war. We have been for years.
What more can they do? What more can they do that isn't a civil war? Right. What doesn't qualify?
And you've been told, don't be judgmental.
Right.
Don't judge me.
Right.
That's their
You
protection.
don't be.
Deflection.
We can, but you can't.
Well, it's just like that argument now. Both sides need to turn down the rhetoric.
Right.
Both sides don't have rhetoric. It's these crazies on the left that are screaming and calling everybody a Nazi and amping up all these people who are basically insane,
and
who
not
will do anything
down.
that they'll glom onto anything. It's like, I remember working a housing unit one time, not to bring corrections into this, but I walked into a housing unit one time and I was doing an inspection, and the officer, no lie, had his back all the way against the wall. I mean, his hands and palms against the wall. And there wasn't even that many inmates in there. And he had the look of fear on his face. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? So they can't come across that red line. There was a red line around his workstation that the inmates weren't allowed to cross. I said, they want to get you bad enough. Do you think that red line's going to stop them? And he'd never thought of that. And he was like, oh my gosh, they can come across that line. Yeah. And it's sort of like, it's time people stop playing these stupid games where what was Bush's thing, compassionate conservatism. Yeah, I can be compassionate, but I'm not going to stand there and let you smack me upside the head 30 times and I'm supposed to take it and shut up and just deal with it. That
turn the other cheek.
Over. We need to start standing up, like Kash Patel stood up to Pencil Neck Schiff and Swalwell the other day, telling them exactly, using the things that they've said and the things that they've done and throwing it right back in their face. And I don't want to fight and argue and carry on, but I'm not going to stand there and take it anymore.
So but didn't Mazie Hirono come out the other day and just kind of tell us about the pull-ups? I mean,
Mazie was there too.
Funny stuff. They can't do a pull-up. Well, now you just told us that you've been misgendering people all of this time anyway. So you're a woman, you've got to be able to do certain things. Well, now they're women.
Well, she was differentiating, which she hasn't done for the last 10 years. So
I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't.
So can I interject a little bit here?
Yes, please.
So going back to, it was before World War II, but the whole point of the PSYOPs program, which goes into MK Ultra and all the other names. When I talk to people, they say that's just the one port. It never ended. They started it. They had a plan to understand how the human mind worked, how to enhance it, how to control it, how to thwart it, how to break it, influence it in just about absolutely every way. And during that time period, they experimented with everything possible, whether it was frequencies, whether it was drugs, biologicals,
LSD,
chemicals,
you name it.
Everything. And that's the world I grew up in.
Right.
So you got to understand their goal was, number one, deniable. The second
plausible deniability.
The second part was incapacitating. depending on what it was, unless they're enhancing. But even if the enhancements are there, they want the ability to incapacitate if they want to stop them.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a government that is walking the line in a Cold War to beat an enemy that's willing to do anything to destroy you, and you start doing deniable things to incapacitate and control people, and it's subverted throughout your culture within schools, medicine, media, and
All of it.
every music, every part of the culture, the arts, everything.
All of it.
We have a very long time that has manipulated everybody for generations. So when you talk about you don't understand and you get caught into the minutia of all these things, you're losing focus.
Mm-hmm.
You're not focusing on God. You're not focusing on your strengths. You're not focusing on truth. You're getting lost. And their job is to hook you into incapacitation, which means you're not doing your job.
Right.
You've turned your back on God and you're now fighting with other people.
So
So
is Charlie Kirk's assassination an opportunity to get that focus?
So again, you got to look at when
It's
the
going to
left
backfire.
moved into Antifa, they were pushing a narrative and violent action in a world where they were allowed to run amok, and it was mostly civil, with fires burning and the downstream effects to our insurance and costs and everything else. Those were distractions to keep us from ourselves. We just had a major thing like what happened with the BLM and the whole movement of that.
Mm-hmm.
But our response is different because we are different. We are Americans with values that believe in God and are dedicated to our home and our country. And our response will be different.
So I hope that the response, turning point, and Charlie's widow, that is having an extremely large influx right now, as one would expect. I hope that the momentum can be kept, and that something that can lead to a grassroots, fundamental change. This November, this election that starts today, by the way,
we're going to vote.
Voting. This election in Virginia is crucial because it's going to be seen as a bellwether.
Yes.
And
where Virginia goes, the rest of
I'm
the
not concerned one bit about the polls and where Winsome and et cetera stand in these polls, because the polls are bullshit.
Right. They're all manipulated.
Absolute bullshit. So we need to keep the momentum going. And that plays into what the left may not have realized what they did when they assassinated Charlie Kirk.
They awakened a giant.
We have an obligation to not let that be in vain. We have all got to keep that momentum going and to keep his work going. And some of the best minds that I know of, I mean, Mike Rowe is excellent. He can motivate in it. He's a disarming and he's somebody that can talk to all people across the board. Victor Davis Hansen's a brilliant mind, but he's every time I see him, I fear for his health. And he's a historian. But who is going to take up that mantle and run with it? There will be somebody or several somebodies. We've just got to not let that momentum go in vain.
So that goes back down to what's your personal relationship with God, your family, your community, and are you living into what your greatest gifts are? And if everybody's doing that, which is what they've been thwarting for 75 years and getting people to just follow what they tell you to do, which is what the left is good at, they have apps to do that. We need to make sure we're focusing on our personal journey, our family's journey, our community, and living into what we are called to do in this world. And that is exactly what Charlie Kirk did. And that should be the message. Not reacting back to what the left is provoking.
Right.
That's foolishness. That's getting lost in the storm. You got to stay focused and find that narrow gate of your own life.
Before we move on to talk about the toxic deep state, we have a commercial that we'd like to share. So Dana, you want to bring us into that brief commercial?
Yes, and I think I've talked to Debbie about this, but can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Um, we realize everything that's going on, or a lot of what's going on, and we've lost our historical roots. This is the greatest country in the world. And Debbie, you brought it up earlier about how they start. We're seeing what they're doing with the kindergartners all the way through to college, where these kids, they sound intelligent, but they can't think. Okay. So we want to bring everything back to its original biblical principles. So we did a Wake Up Winchester, which you've been a part of, and we worked with the Liberty Man. And the Liberty Man said, I go into all of these schools and in period costume and I talk history. And the teachers will say, wow, that was really great. We need you to come back and teach us more. And Larry's like, well, you're the teacher. Why don't you know this? So what we decided to do for our 250th anniversary is Mountain Patriots Educational Ministry is going to do historical podcasts. Make America patriotic again. Here is the chance for people to be a part of history. So we need the kids. We need the moms, the dads, the teachers, the business owners. We need everybody everywhere to become a historical figure. Okay, here's your chance to be part of the 250th anniversary, but be a figure, a historical figure, to help us celebrate the last 250 years. We want to have Thomas Paine, Patrick Henry, give us liberty or give me liberty or give me death. We want to talk to Amelia Earhart. We want to talk to Teddy Roosevelt. We want to talk to Abraham Lincoln. We want to talk to John Kennedy. We also want to talk to the children that were George Washington as a child. How did he learn what he learned to begin with that made him so great when we actually started this country? And we actually have our first podcast coming up next week. And he's got the right vocal cord to do it, right, Charlie? The right vocal cord.
I'll use
we're
that
going
one.
to interview each one of these folks, each one of these people for 20 minutes. And we've already talked with the school board. Scott's the chairman of on the school board. We talked to a lot of the people that are on the school board that love this idea. I've had people running for office that are saying, wow, my daughter would love to be Amelia Earhart. Well, let's interview Amelia Earhart for 20 minutes and have her tell you what was so great about the opportunity to be an American, to have the opportunity to grow and be a part of history. So this will start in October. Let people know that we want people to contact us at wakeupwinchester.com. Site's down right now because it's being revamped to be able to put this up. But we want people to come in. And here's the cool part of this. If I have a child that wants to be Harriet Tubman, we'll just use Harriet Tubman. That's a great historical figure for you. What will the parents learn about Harriet Tubman? What will they learn about slavery? Will they be able to go back and trace their biological roots back to the Shenandoah Valley? It all started in Virginia. Everything started in Virginia, folks, and this is our opportunity to be able to bring our state onto the map and bring this all the way out to all of the people and reclaim and reteach the greatness of God and country right here with this podcast. So that is my little commercial for the Mountain Patriots Educational Ministries. Just make sure you let people know what we're doing. And hopefully we get Chris to be one of these. I can imagine him being a great historical a figure in historical costume, But we're gonna have fun with this. We're gonna have fun.
All right, we'll be in touch.
We're gonna have a lot of fun with this. I had somebody at our Monday meetings. I know you guys did 56. Was it 56 months of the bonfire?
Got that.
Okay, because I was there several times. I got to hear Sheriff Mack, Ivan Raikland. I mean, a lot of different people. And we've done every week, every Monday for, it'll be 40 months. And I have some people that don't say a lot. They come to our meetings on Mondays and don't say a lot. And they say, you know what, Dana? I want to be Thomas Paine. I've done a lot of stuff on Thomas Paine, and I have right here on our screen is D.L. Moody. How did we get the religious, the spiritual God piece out into our? Well, D.L. Moody had an awful lot to do with it, with Billy Graham and so forth. So we want to bring all of that stuff together, and hopefully we find a lot of people that'll help us, and we get the opportunity to put this out into schools so that the kids actually learn how great this country is. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Charlie.
Okay, thanks, Dana. Now let's talk about the toxic state, the toxic deep state. When you kick a hornet's nest, you're bound to get stung, and I believe President Trump has done that and more. So we can expect nothing different. We have already seen the deadly reaction and the attempts for deadly reactions from those people that do not support the Constitution, do not support the United States of America. But we also understand the toxic state is endemic. It's everywhere. It's not simplistic in its existence. It seems to be at every level. So its complexity is what we have to deal with. And at the local level, all politics are local.
Yep.
We need to be ready, and we need to know who the players are, and so on. So, giving Debbie or Chris, whichever, give us some of your thoughts on the depth of the toxic state and what we're talking about.
I think that it helps to define what the deep state is, and in my estimation, the best definition I've been able to come up with is they are unelected bureaucrats that write policy. That's deep state. They're not accountable, but they are effectual, and the self-interests are rampant, and I think that what we need to recognize and realize is having somebody like Elon come in with Doge and say they're going to clean out government. That's feckless. That's not, because those people have been in those positions of power for generations.
Right.
Not just they're not just career bureaucrats, generations of them. So here's the thing. If somebody commits a blatant crime or a blatant action flagrantly, they do it because they're confident of the consequences. They're confident they're going to get away with it. So the reason these people are doing these things, as far as the deep state is concerned, like USAID, it's not USAID, it's USAID. Right. There's no aid involved. It's
sounds good though, doesn't it?
International development. Those establishments, are established, and they've been established, and they're sure of their ability to do the things that they want to do without consequence from Elon or Trump or you or me. And the difficulty is restructuring the way that we interact on a global stage, because it's so easy for the finances to get funneled back into the political party that they want them to be done through USA, through foreign aid, not USAID, but foreign aid.
And NGOs.
And NGOs. Same thing, NGOs and all these things. So it will help us to stand back and take a 30,000-foot view of what do we mean and what's the establishment, and they're behaving the way they behave, just like Antifa, because they're confident they get away with it. They're not going out, they're not sticking their neck out. These congressional hearings that we're subjected to, oh my God, if I'm subjected to another one of those, the conservative congressman is grilling the deep state or the liberal candidate or whatever, and the poor candidates, and they're drawing circles in the carpet with their feet, and they're saying, he's making me look bad, he's embarrassing me, he's humiliating me. And then they go on and they get their money and they go on and there's no consequences.
None.
You know, until a congressman turns to their right and says, Sergeant at Arms, take that witness into custody for contempt of Congress right now. Until there are consequences to that nonsense, I don't want to see the kabuki theater of congressional hearings. I don't care. It's all theater. So we need to have consequences returned to these actions. And they behave the way they do
because they can.
Because they're confident they can. Because they
can. Yep.
So
and what happens is
it's all theater.
Where we are is because those bureaucrats that write the policy sometimes write good policy, oftentimes write bad policy. But the mere fact that they're there to write policy in those agencies, that's their job. So once they write a policy, they need to write another policy. That's their life. That's
they're
like
never done. They're not completed with it.
We've set up this thing, and our forefathers understood that it needed to be small because if it grows, it has a life of its own.
Yep.
And that's the fuel, the blood that flows through the system are people that write policy and politicians in Congress that approve policy. So more policy, more it's like a drug.
Well,
and you got a gun to your head for that too. You
got to self-perpetuate. You know, it can't.
Yeah.
They can't not because they can't be finished with their job.
Right.
They still got mortgages. They still got orthodontics bills. They've still got college and car payments, etc.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I can't give up my job. The jab was the same thing. Well, I could either give up my job and I lose all this stuff, or I take this.
I'm so old. I remember that foreign aid was justified to me as a teenager. Well, my question posed to my teachers and my elders was, why are we sending money to these people that hate us?
Right.
And the answer given me was, well, in the grand scheme of things, what we're doing is we're sending them resources so that they're able to fix their problems in their shithole countries, and they're able to elect politicians that are favorable to a stable world economy. Used to be, we send money to them so that they would stay where they are and fix their own effing problems. Does anybody believe that anymore?
No. Never have.
5 years of open borders where we had 14 million people walk across the border unstopped, unfettered. How does Sheinbaum, shame on Sheinbaum, how dare she lecture America on our policies when she simultaneously says that she's so proud that there are 60 million Mexicans in America sending remittances back to Mexico. Her state is so failed that 60 million of her own constituents had to leave that hole to come to America for a better life.
Right.
Getting back to the toxic state. So what do we do?
So you stop. So first off, I think, so you're talking about one aspect of, as you already said, very complex.
This is tentacles.
Created everywhere in every part. So what you really truly have to understand is the system is not broken. We're raised that if you do a good job, the American way, you're going to get ahead. Well, that was the lie that was sold to us to keep us in line and moving forward. This system actually has been set up, embedded, complex, and is functioning exactly how they want it to function. Over 100 years, it's been created. So we're not going to fix it overnight.
Right.
Trump has great ideas, but he's also running into all the layers of things we as people have to stop pointing, well, those hearings aren't working or that's not working, and thinking that that is going to resolve one thing or get lost just in the minutia of it. There is a system in place that we're trying to break. Its goal
level by level. We're peeling back the layers of the onion little by little.
we accepted being politically correct. Oh, that will never happen. Let them have their way. We are the ones that were silenced for so long. We had no idea that this agenda had been marching forward and infiltrating porn in schools and all the different aspects that were. I mean, I literally called my senator and were watching the movie when it first came out and said, "Is there porn in Virginia schools?" She goes, "Oh yeah, but we don't talk about that." Yeah, it's there. I go, "How could it be there?" She goes, "Well, it was just one of those things. When I was fighting with the WHO over their things that were pushing through last year, I found out that embedded in every single school was the WHO's agenda to immediately go after our children. Nobody talked about that when that went in, but it was embedded a while back. And if the WHO pushed their world agenda, our children would be subject to it without any parents having a say.
A great reset.
We need to stop. How do we address it? We need to stop electing globalists. That's one thing. When we say make America great again, you know, that's
World
what we need to
Economic
focus
Forum.
on. And if that means a wee modicum of isolationism, I'm fine with it. John Bolton famously said when he was while John Bolton was the U.S. representative to the United Nations, one of the best things he ever said was you could lop the top 4 floors off the UN and no one would ever miss it. You want to stop the globalization? I got a great idea. The UN's original charter was valid. It had a really, really great mission statement, but it became so bloated and so ridiculous. I have an idea for you, and we're going to call it the Cloud Plan. That's all I want in return. It's known as the Cloud Plan. The Cloud Plan is we turn the United Nations into something akin to the Olympics, where every member nation of the UN vies to host the UN for 5 years or 8 years or however long it is. And it is awarded to the member nation that has the lowest GDP. So the biggest ish-hole member of the UN gets to host the UN. Now, that does 3 things. First, it gives us our real estate back in Manhattan, and it can be a Trump hotel.
Yeah.
They get to hate us from overseas, which is great. Okay. The second thing is 80% of the bureaucrat waste, they're going to evaporate. They're not going to go to Ouagadougou and Burkina Faso. And it brings prosperity to that ish-hole nation, because unlike the Olympics, they got to build an infrastructure that's going to last.
Right.
So they got to build an airport, they got to build hotels, they got to build a port, they got to build all this stuff so that dirt hole will be able to host the UN. So that's the Cloud Plan.
I like that idea.
Get rid of the current structure of the UN.
Bringing it back, it means actually having the programs we have set up are not US aid that's funneling all this money around, but it's very specific. You have transparency, and it's actually doing the things that it's engaged to do, or it ends. And right now, everything, look at the Department of Education and the chaos it's created across our nation. Look at our healthcare system. Look at the vaccinations and big companies being able to harm people, and there's no way for parents to help their children, but they're forced into these corners. There are things that we can do to actually get back to mission. And bottom line, our forefathers
our founding forefathers?
Yes.
Our founding forefathers, yes.
Limited government for a reason, and we got to get back to that.
Hail Mary.
Go back to the original Constitution, the way it was written. And that's what Trump is actually doing. If we're watching, and I know you guys agree with this, he's trying. He hasn't done anything that wasn't constitutional. That's why they were able to raid him, and he can set a precedent. Or they do this and he can set a precedent. And they do this and he can set a precedent, because he followed the entire Constitution to the letter. And if we don't do that, we can't say, there's nothing we can do. We have to follow it by the letter.
So getting back to what we can do, we can't just depend on Trump doing it.
No, we have
to. He's scratching the surface. We need to get civics back into every school. What I talk about a lot is we got two things that we cannot lose. One is our election integrity, and the other is our children.
Our children.
Yep.
Without either one of those, we're lost. We're done.
Those are the two they've blown up. The assault going all the way back to MK Ultra and everything that's been layered in between has been on the family. And then what has happened to our elections has been the travesty of what's taken away all our freedom in the last couple decades. We have to get that back.
So if we focus on the family, that would help.
And how do we fix families is right now you have a baby, you're home for a short time period, and you throw them in daycare and you go through this. We were sold that it had to have two incomes to be able to survive in this world. We're sold that we have to buy and replace and do all these things. And what we're doing is sacrificing our family. We need God back in our lives, and we need our families at home. My mother just died, and the medical system failed her so severely between her vax injury, and then she had to go into a home because she was so incapacitated. She needed 24/7 care. In the end, she was in the hospital for 27 days and a rehab for 2 months. And they were torturing her in the end. Finally, we brought her home in hospice. And it was the best experience we ended up having. She was ready to pass. We took care of her and we dedicated our lives. The same thing when my children were little. I worked from home. I ran my home. We grew our own food. And I was trying to help people in the community. We have to return to focusing on what is best for the wife, the husband, and the children. Our home. We have to be involved with our board of supervisors and our school boards, and we have to be supporting community engagement. Crisis should not be handled in our communities by the government. They have destroyed our communities because of that. But we are addicted and dependent on all of that. We have to break that cycle.
Scott, you have a thought on that?
Well, as what she just said, if you remember Chris, my neighbor that went down to North Carolina where they had all that.
Yes.
They took all that equipment and all that money and
it got sucked up.
FEMA was trying to take all this stuff over and had warehouses full of stuff they wouldn't let anybody touch. And we need to get off the dependency of the government. That's for sure.
We saw that Katrina. We saw that in Puerto Rico. How much stuff was in warehouses in Puerto Rico when we set it down there and they never gave it? See what happened in Haiti.
Haiti, Maui, Los Angeles. Look what they're doing. Look what they're doing with the Palisades right now. I mean, come on.
Threw up there.
Fuckers.
Oh my gosh.
We've got a few minutes left. You got some final thoughts for us?
I just gave
How can we all work together? Because I love working with you. You guys have been to our stuff. We've been down to yours. We have put together a community. There is a pretty large community that you guys have and we have. Okay, and we're running into all of these little, I'll call them cells of constitutional people, patriots. How do we all pull this thing together, guys, where we take back this country? And I think it can be done, and I think it can be done pretty rapidly over the next 4, 5, 6 years.
So I see that the biggest problem is the left actually knows how to have that hive mentality and everybody get behind one thing. And it doesn't matter if you agree or not agree, you are marching in those orders, whatever direction it is. And you got to remember, this is an asymmetrical warfare. We're talking psyops. There's a psy war going on. And the hardest thing for the right is that we are independent, strong, and we work. And the infighting that we have, that you have to do it my way. And if you don't do it my way, I'm not doing it with you, has been our downfall.
Oh, then that the truth.
It across the board. And since I do a lot of work with family courts, it's horrendous. I'm going to be in a documentary coming out, and then it became about money, and then I'm not supporting them, don't talk to them. You know, we have to accept we are all different. We are strong and independent, but what our focus has to be on God, our families, and doing our part, and stop fighting with people on our side.
Right.
Which is that goes right back to the hook, the incapacitation, failing to cope, and they win. And
Yep.
that is their goal. And until we can take the perspective of God looking down on this world and saying, look, I keep giving you the opportunity and you keep messing with it.
Let's
Focus.
learn to explain things like Charlie Kirk could and did.
Mm-hmm. And you got to understand there's different places. Trump has been a bulldozer and has done things only he could do.
Right.
But Trump is not JFK, nor is he Reagan, or is he anybody else. Chris has his great strengths, but he's not me. I can't be like Chris. Chris can't be like me. Okay, I'm
But
not
look
going
at
to
the
be.
pieces.
It's true.
Look at
It's
the
true.
pieces we have. We
All put
can't do
together.
this. We got to do this.
So God has us here for a reason, and we have to restore that ability to, as they say, coexist. We actually had more diversity and more brilliance in our backyard than any of their narratives they have out there. So we got to
Left can't live up to the yard signs.
Yeah. Dana, I
Yes.
think that's a wrap.
Well, how do we say it, Charlie? We'll get there. First off, I want to say thanks, guys. This has been great. We could talk for hours and hours and hours. I mean, we could. We
But
could talk
people
for
can't
hours.
listen for hours and hours.
Yeah, right. I know I like some of those shows that go on for 3 hours. Barbara and I'll have it on in the background, and we're like, But let's stay connected. Let's stay hooked up. You and I, we all talk. We do. Okay, we follow what's going on. Folks, anybody that's watching this, if you learned anything today, it's you got to put your differences aside. We're all on the same side. We have to stick together, and we've got to make sure that we take back Virginia, and we have to pay attention to what's going on. We just have to. So with that, I want to say thank you to both of you today. Make sure that you check out our website at wakeupwinchester.com, which is a little under construction. It'll be back up. Like this, subscribe to this, and share this. But get involved. We're involved. Debbie and Chris are involved. Scott's involved. Charlie's involved. You've got to be involved. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. It's your responsibility. You have a talent, and use it. So with that, I always say it's in the book. Okay, that's our saying. Mountain Patriots Educational Ministries. That one is in the book. And we always end with our Mountain Patriot prayer. So I'm going to turn it over to Charlie to take us out today with the Mountain Patriot prayer.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this beautiful world and this country that you have given us, and the patriots who are willing to care for it. Thank you for inspiring our founders to create this beautiful republic. Please help us to keep it as the aspiring place to live. Please give us the wisdom to do the right things, the common sense to judge wisely, the energy to never give up, and your unending grace in which we take comfort. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Guys, thank you so much. Everybody, I want everybody to have a blessed day. Like I said, like, share, subscribe, make sure you comment. And as we always say at Mountain Patriots, this one is in the book. Have a blessed day.
Don't forget to vote.
Vote.
And God
Vote.
bless.